Madison, Wisconsin, January 19. Fans rushed the court after the Wisconsin Badgers beat the Michigan Wolverines 64-54 at the Kohl Center on January 19, 2019 in Madison, Wisconsin. Photo by Dylan Buell, Getty Images. Wisconsin basketball was in a bad tailspin 3 weeks ago. The loss on the road to Western Kentucky to close out 2018 and the non-conference slate was a killer. That led to losing to Minnesota. They did beat Penn State, but then they lost in overtime at home to Purdue and then on the road against Maryland. The Badgers felt rock bottom of the season and there was only one place to go from there. The feel around the program was that Wisconsin isn't new to upsetting highly ranked teams at home. I mean, most recently, it happened in 2013 when the Badgers knocked off Michigan. Just because Wisconsin had lost 4 out of 5, everyone had a feeling something special was going to happen at the Kohl Center. And it did. Not only did Wisconsin snap a bad losing skid and knock off the second-ranked team, Michigan was also undefeated. That game sparked a gigantic run for Wisconsin. They were being roughly seeded at 8 or 9, but now they're getting looks at a possible 3. Lucas Harkins had Wisconsin as a 5 seed in his bracketology before the big road win at Minnesota. Wisconsin's defense has been tremendous during this winning streak. The Badgers have held all 6 opponents to their season lows. For those efforts, their scoring defense now ranks 8th in the country at 61 points per game. The first 4 wins were by 10 or more. They got revenge on Maryland for a 7-point win and the defeat of Minnesota was a 5-point victory. Thanks for Michigan State losing 3 straight. The Badgers and Spartans are in a tie for 3rd place in the Big Ten. It's a pretty far-fetched hope, but if Wisconsin wins and Nebraska beats Purdue, the Badgers will move into a 4-team tie for 1st place in the Big Ten. They know beating Michigan is doable. It will be exactly 3 weeks since they played in Madison. Even the same start time. It will be a totally different atmosphere in Ann Arbor, but Wisconsin needs to focus on a few keys to beating Michigan, so let's get right to them. Page 2 Madison, Wisconsin, January 19, Ignas Brasdeikis. Photo by Dylan Buell, Getty Images. The Wisconsin Badgers held Ignas Brasdeikis scoreless for the first time all season in their last meeting. The freshman had only gone 2 games scoring less than 10 points, and those were to George Washington and Western Michigan. Iggy has only played less than 25 minutes in a game 4 times and once was to the Badgers. Greg Gard drew up an excellent game plan to stop the freshman and the players executed better than expected. I said it at the beginning of the season, he made it so the loss of Moritz Wagner wasn't as bad as everyone thought it was going to be. Wagner was such a huge cog for Michigan in their title run last season. And in comes this freshman who basically plays the same style as Wagner, which is why Michigan started 17-0. His rebounding numbers aren't exactly what you want your player at the 4 to be averaging, but Michigan does have 4 guys averaging 5 or more boards per game. The trade-off though for Iggy having a bad night is that John Teske scored 15 points and Isaiah Livers hauled in 5 boards. But if you want to compare the battle of the big men, Ethan Happ led all scorers with 26 points, he came up with 10 boards and shot almost 55% from the field. Teske was a great counter for the Wolverines and kept them in the entire game despite the 10-point difference. But if Michigan wanted to extend its winning streak, Brasdeikis needed to score. Brasdeikis was added to the Wooden Award late-season top 20 watch list. So Michigan and everyone else was expecting him to be doing more than shooting 0 for 5 from the field and missing all 3 three-point attempts. Wisconsin has some excellent defenders in the front court. We all know Happ can average over a steal and block per game. Khalil Iverson may not have the stats to back it up, but he's a great defender. And Nate Ruvers is turning into a shot-blocking machine as he has 44 on the season. John Beilein is a great coach and he will have a great counter to what Wisconsin did last time, but the Badgers should just come out with its same game plan on Iggy and make others work. Page 3 at ISON, Wisconsin, January 19, Kobe King. Photo by Dylan Buell, Getty Images. As solid as Michigan's top 7 guys are, their thin bench can cost them at times. Granted, they have only lost twice this season and to be technical, just 3 times in almost a full year. But they have just 7 guys averaging 10 or more minutes per game. After Eli Brooks at 7 with just over 14 minutes per game, the next highest is at just over 4. Only one guy off the bench against Wisconsin played 10 or more. Wisconsin is very thin in the front court. They have a very athletic guard who is still trying to find his way in Kobe King. There's the sharpshooter at times Brevin Pritzel. And Aleem Ford goes 6'8" but hardly ever plays around the basket as he is capable of knocking down multiple outside shots per game. Ford is an added taller body, but there isn't a true banger down low. The same could be said about Michigan. In their normal rotation, they have just Isaiah Livers coming off the bench that is 6'7" or taller. But then again, Michigan is only seeing 2 guys off the bench. Wisconsin has a very solid 3. And when Charlie Thomas decides to spell a struggling Nate Ruvers or Ethan Happ, he'll be in for 4 or 5 minutes. The Wolverines have Austin Davis who does the same. The Wolverines struggled so much versus Iowa in their last defeat that they emptied their bench. That made way for freshman, top 100 recruit Brandon Johns Jr. to play 10 or more minutes for just the 3rd time all season. He's just played in 17 out of 23 games this season. But he was in there for Davis off the bench in the next game against Rutgers. Livers seems to be good for at least 1 3-pointer game off the bench. Sounds exactly like Ford. But the thing is, Wisconsin is so much better when their sophomore can knock down at least 2 in a game. Because when he's shooting, it's usually later in the game and they're pretty important. King is itching for a breakout game off the bench and P.R. Tizzle has the ability to knock down some key triples and is excellent from the line. Page 4 Madison, Wisconsin, December 22, Brad Davison. Photo by Stacy Revere, Getty Images. This seems like a reoccurring theme for Wisconsin, but it's the truth. During their stretch of losing 4 out of 5, missed free throws were a huge factor. Khalil Iverson is a physical player and goes to the line a few times per game. He was missing bad. There's the hack-a-hap that teams will do when it's a close game because Ethan is shooting an abysmal 47% from the line. And the 2 guards with great strokes are under 80%. I mentioned free throws as one of the keys for the first meeting. I figured Michigan wasn't shooting the best from the line either, so if an upset was possible, the Badgers could take advantage of one category. Michigan shot 5 for 11 from the line while Wisconsin was 7 for 9. I always envision going to the line at least more than 10 times per game, but beggars can't be choosers. The Badgers did have a better percentage. Happ only went to the line 4 times and made 2. Brad Davison and Demetric Trice each made both of theirs. Then Aleem Ford actually attacked the basket for an old-fashioned 3-point play and made his and one. Tesk was the answer to Brastakis not performing well. The Badgers decided to foul him more times than they probably wanted to, but he shot just 3 for 6. And luckily Xavier Simpson missed a pair from the line. Wisconsin followed that up with shooting 17-21 from the line against Illinois. It was under 70% from then on, but they seemed to be able to knock them down when it counted. Wisconsin has played with the lead late in the game in every contest since, and instead of blowing it, guys were connecting. Next, Big Ten Power Rankings. Davison made some clutch free throws the other night against Minnesota and Brevin Pritzel went to the line twice and made all 4. That's a guy that needs to find a way to hit more charity stripe shots. If they carry that into the rematch against Michigan, chalk it up as another category win for the Badgers.